I'd like to talk to you about something somewhat humorous. It's not funny in what it does to your marriage or your relationship. It's funny when you can look back upon it and identify how dysfunctional it is. It's funny for Samantha and I because if there is one dysfunctional pattern that we are champions at, that we have belts for winning, that we can fall into if we're not careful, it is the dysfunctional pattern of what we call finding the bad guy. Today's video is going to be for those that are probably somewhere between 6 months and several years into recovery work. If you've come to one of our weekends and you still watch these videos, or you've been a part of our community and you still watch them, and maybe you've even messaged me, because I do get lots of messages from people that are like, hey, we're pretty far in. Can you give us some things that will help us? Can you give us some tools that will help those that are further in than maybe the first 6 months or a year? Well, today is exactly that. Samantha and I are champions at finding the bad guy. And here's what that looks like. You get into an argument, you get into a discussion, and you immediately say, well, you keep doing this. And then Samantha would come back, well, if you would stop doing that, then I wouldn't do this. It isn't just blaming, it's constantly finding the bad guy, because if we can find the bad guy, every problem will be fixed. Samantha has a PhD in hasty generalizations and overgeneralities. It pushes a button in me where I go from calm, relaxed to I'm going to throw a piece of food at you. And she just does, and she understands it. But I'm just as guilty because I react to it. So then I say, and I have a PhD in overreacting. So together we're brilliant. Like, we are so smart. We are PhD level smart. And what we're doing is we're finding the bad guy. Out of fairness, I need to go back because I told you what Samantha does. I overreact, and I say, well, if you would learn to communicate and stop using these hasty generalizations and these always and every time, maybe we would be able to have a conversation without fighting. Okay, I've leveled the playing field. We lash out and find the bad guy. Now, before you send me that comment, that is the traditional comment that I get, which is, oh my gosh, you're 14 or so years, you're still fighting and you're still lashing out about infidelity? No, absolutely not. Please don't send me that comment. I'm giving you hope that there will come a time where you'll fight about school and bills and child rearing issues and laundry and the way you park the car in the driveway, which prevents me from opening my door and getting my briefcase out. Sorry, got a little personal there. You'll fight about how often the lawn needs to be mowed. And I know many of you are like, I can't wait for the day that we fight about something that isn't infidelity related. It's coming. It will come. I promise you, if you'll do the work, it will come. We find the bad guy with such skill. And what it speaks to, what it reveals, is not just a lack of communication. That's an oversimplification. It reveals a lack of connection. You see, when Samantha doesn't feel connected, she can become nitpicky, she can become kind of controlling, and she can become kind of a lister or an itemizer at all the ways I'm not doing what I should be doing as a husband with 3 kids who are all teenagers. When I become disconnected, I become very withdrawn, and I become kind of a measurer. Well, you haven't done this. You haven't done this. Well, Samantha, you haven't done this. If you'd have done these things, then maybe we wouldn't be so disconnected, and maybe I would want to connect with you. See, I'm a great finder of the bad guy too. See, it's lack of connection that will produce in you this finding the bad guy mentality. There has to be a point. Now, please hear me. There has to be a point where someone says, we need to stop finding the bad guy. We've got to begin to shift. And it's easier when you're further down the road. But you've got to shift and say, look, I feel disconnected from you. And I can see how you probably are feeling disconnected because I'm not A, B, and maybe C. No more than A, B, or C, because if you're going to pile on to your partner or spouse, they're going to run away from you. Maybe it's so tense it's just A. Here's how it looks for me with Samantha. Just the other day, we had a bit of a dysfunctional moment, and I said, Samantha, look, I feel disconnected from you, and I realize that I haven't had a business meeting with you. We haven't prayed together for a few days, and I can see that you're really exhausted, and I just want to connect with you. Samantha then looked at me and was like, ooh, he is speaking the right language. Connection, and then some of the things that I know I should be doing. She then said, well, I do feel disconnected, but I can see that I've been kind of critical and withdrawn from you. And then at that point, we both said, well, look, let's get together tonight or tomorrow morning or something and connect. See, it's about connection. Connection, in many ways, is the antithesis to find the bad guy. Because when you're connected, you're not trying to lash out. You're not trying to find who the bad guy is. You're trying to own what is your part. You're trying to embrace what you have not done to make your partner feel safe. And even though you may be a year or 5 or 10 years or 14 years down the road, you still have the responsibility to make your partner or spouse feel safe, not necessarily because of infidelity, but because you want to stay connected, because connection is one of the main ways to defeat relapse in recovery work.